This is for law students studying Unit 1 AS Law. We're going to go through the parliamentary process of lawmaking. Now, the first thing you need to remember is that because the House of Commons are our democratically elected body, a bill is more likely to be introduced in the House of Commons first to go through the parliamentary process. On occasion, it will be introduced in the House of Lords, but it's most likely going to be introduced into the House of Commons. Now, anyway, if you've got your pen and paper, you're going to need to take notes. If you just want to listen, because that's how you learn, then no problem. But if you've got your pen and paper, I want you to write in a vertical line on your paper the numbers 1 to 8. We're going to quickly title each stage, and then we're going to go into depth of the stage, and you can make notes on that. The first stage is the first reading. Then the second stage is the second reading. The third stage is the committee stage. The fourth stage is the report stage. The fifth stage is the third reading. The sixth stage is what I call the House of Lords stage, but that's not referred to as, but we'll come on to that later when we get to that. Then the seventh stage is royal assent, and then the eighth stage is the commencement of the act. So the first stage. The first stage is the formal procedure, where the name of the bill is read out, and so are the main aims. Usually there will be no debate, no discussion, but there will be a verbal vote on whether the House that the bill is introduced in wishes to consider the bill further. The MPs will shout either aye for yes or no, obviously for no, and that will determine whether the bill is going to be considered further or not. Obviously, if you've got two sides that are against each other, then it may be unclear as to whether there are more fors or against. In this situation, there will be a formal vote where the two tellers, there'll be a teller for each side, for the for and for the against, will count the votes of each side, and that will then determine whether whether the bill will be considered further. Of course, if there are more yeses, then if there's more for it, then it will be considered. The second reading is the main debate of the bill. This is where the MPs shout at each other like drunk pubmen on a Friday night. Don't mention that in the exam. I'm just saying so you can remember. We've all seen it on the television. This is usually the second reading. And the MPs debate on the main principles behind the law, the core of the bill. And if they want to speak, if an MP wants to speak, they must catch the speaker's eye, because the speaker controls the debate. The speaker sits in the middle of those who are for the bill, those who are against it. And if MP wishes to speak, the speaker will let them. If the speaker doesn't let them, they can't speak. Simple as. And at the end, another vote is taken, and obviously there must be a majority in favour for the bill if it's to go into the next stage, which is the committee stage. The committee stage involves a detailed examination of each clause of the bill, which is done by a committee between 16 and 50 MPs. I know that's a big difference in number, but obviously the number of the MPs who are running this detailed examination will depend on the contents of the bill, and of course if they have knowledge in that area. And at this stage, interested parties may also express their views. For example, if an issue is based on environmental law, Greenpeace may want to express their views. Anyone with expert knowledge, or just simply parties who are interested or who will be strongly affected by the bill if it becomes law, will have an opportunity to express their opinion at this stage as well. And if amendments were made, then next is the report stage. If no amendments were made, then it goes straight to the third reading. The report stage is where the committee reports back to the House that the bill was introduced in with the amendments. So let's say the bill was introduced into the House of Commons. The report stage will report back to the House of Commons with the amendments they made. The House of Commons will then debate on those amendments, and they then have the authority to accept or reject the amendments. They don't have to accept. They may accept, they may partly accept, or they may completely reject. It's completely up to them. Next is the third reading. which is the final vote on the bill. At this stage, a bill is very likely to become law. It's very unlikely that a bill will fail at this stage. If it was going to fail, it would probably be in first reading or second reading. And usually there'll be no debate, no further discussion, but if 6 MPs from the House of Commons do request further debate or discussion, then it will take place, but it's unlikely. Next is the House of Lords stage. I call it the House of Lords stage, but that's not what it's called. Basically, if the bill was introduced into the House of Commons, at this stage we then have to go through the same process in the House of Lords. So the first reading, the second reading, the committee stage and the report stage. And if the House of Lords do make amendments to the bill, they will have to report back to the House of Commons with those amendments, and the House of Commons then have the authority again to accept or reject those changes to the bill. Next is the royal assent, which is basically where the monarch, i.e. our Queen, accepts or rejects the bill. If she accepts it, it becomes law. If she rejects it, it doesn't. Now it's very unlikely that she's going to reject it because she trusts parliamentary lawmaking, and it's just very unlikely that she will decline. However, the last time it was declined before, it's quite a long time ago, it was in 1707. Queen Anne had refused to grant a bill to become law. And this is the part that most students forget about, including myself, but I have remembered since I'm retaking. But you need to remember, you don't need to, but it's not crucially important, but it may impress the examiner, especially if other students forget to talk about it. But that's commencement of an act. Basically, what's meant to happen is on midnight, the same day that the bill receives royal assent, the bill is meant to come into force. Obviously, due to the nature of laws, the effect they have, they're not very likely to be implemented straight away, because it will act too much like a knee-jerk reaction. It will be too sudden. People need to know that the law is about to change, and so a lot of government ministers, if the government minister is responsible for that area of law, for that matter, then they will probably need to be consulted more about it before it's official. Like the Minister for Transport, if the law is based on transport, or the law is based on, if there's the Minister for Work and Pensions and the Act of Parliament is based on work and pensions, they may need further consultation before it does become law. And that's the parliamentary lawmaking process.